You know what happens to most people? They see problems and they start worrying about them. Your mind is flooded with questions like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to fix that? Where am I going to get this from? What if I lose this or that? And before you know it, those problems seem so big and so overwhelming that they fill you with fear and anxiety. Well, in today's video, I want to change the way you think about problems forever. So stick around till the end of this video, because by the end, you are going to see problems in a whole new light and be able to solve any problem that comes your way. Hey everyone, it's me. Welcome back to the channel. This is the channel where we learn how to become high performers. So make sure to subscribe. The first step to solving any problem is to understand why most people fail to solve the problems that they face. And that is simple. Most people just don't have the right mindset when approaching a problem. Josie, the way you think determines whether a problem will seem small and easy to solve or extremely difficult and impossible to overcome. I'll tell you something very controversial that has been proven by science. The human brain cannot differentiate between a real physical pain and an imagined pain. The same goes for problems. Your brain cannot differentiate between a real, actual problem and a perceived problem. For example, when you hear someone say, "Oh my God, I can't find my keys anywhere," your brain activates the same response as if you were in an actual danger. That's why sometimes when you hear about other people's problems, you feel their emotions as if they were your own. That's because your brain treats all problems, regardless of their nature, the same. So here's the deal. If you change the way you think about problems, your brain won't perceive them as dangerous anymore. And you will feel calm and in control whenever a problem comes up. Now let me give you a secret that will help you become a problem-solving machine. Every problem comes with a solution. Every single problem has a solution. It might be hiding behind 100 different layers of complexity, but there is always a solution somewhere underneath all that mess. It is literally impossible for a problem to exist without a solution. I'll say it again. Every problem has a solution. That means that if you look at any problem as an opportunity to sharpen your skills, instead of looking at it as a threat, then problems stop being dangerous and start being exciting. But now, you might ask, if every problem has a solution, why does 90% of the population keep facing the same problems over and over again? Well, that is due to the lack of the right mindset and the wrong approach. Let me give you a practical example. Imagine that you are driving your car, and suddenly you run out of gas in the middle of nowhere. What would most people do in this situation? They would panic, right? Why? Because their brain perceives this as a huge problem with no clear solution. As a result, their feelings of anxiety and fear start to take over. They start thinking things like, what am I gonna do now? How am I gonna get home? Do I have a gas canister in the trunk? No, I don't. What if a wild animal attacks me? Oh my God, I hope nobody sees me here. I look so stupid. In other words, they start imagining all sorts of scenarios that may never happen. Now imagine another person in the exact same scenario. This person runs out of gas while driving his car. What do she do? He stops the car, turns on the hazard, lights, opens the app on his phone, and orders an Uber to take him and the car to the nearest gas station. This guy doesn't panic. He doesn't waste time feeling sorry for himself or thinking about imaginary threats. Instead, he takes action. Why? Because this guy understands that every problem has a solution. A problem like running out of gas in the middle of nowhere is not unique. It's happened to thousands of other people before him. And those people found solutions to fix it. Therefore, this guy knows that there is a solution to his problem too, even if he hasn't discovered it yet. So, the next time you encounter a problem, remember that feeling anxious or depressed won't help you solve the problem. It will only make you feel worse. Instead, look at the problem as an opportunity to grow and develop new skills. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this situation? When you shift your focus from the negative emotions to the learning aspect of the situation, the problem starts getting smaller and easier to tackle. That S, the difference between people who are stuck in their problems and people who easily overcome their problems. One group thinks of themselves as helpless victims of circumstances beyond their control. The other group knows that they are in control of their lives and that every problem is just a stepping stone towards their greatness. Here's a quote from Eleanor Roosevelt that summarizes everything we have discussed so far. The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. So the first step to solving any problem is to adopt the right mindset when approaching problems. Look at problems as opportunities to test your skills and creativity. But now you might ask, okay, great, I got the mindset part covered, but how do I actually solve the problem? Well, let's move to the second step. To be able to solve any problem, you need to have 3 key ingredients: creativity, logic, and experience. I'm sure you have heard the saying, necessity is the mother of invention. Here's why necessity is such a powerful force. When you are desperate enough to solve a problem, you will come up with very creative solutions that you may have never thought of otherwise. You see, most inventions in the world were invented because someone desperately needed them. The airplane was invented because some guy wanted to visit his girlfriend on the other side of the ocean. The iPhone was created because Steve Jobs wanted to create a device that fits all the functions he needed in his life in one place. The World Wide Web was created because Tim Berners-Lee wanted to share information across computers. In other words, necessity is the fuel for creativity. That is why always say that you should procrastinate as little as possible. Because when you put off solving a problem, you give yourself more time to come up with solutions that might be even more complicated than the original problem. On the other hand, when you face a problem head on, you activate your creative problem-solving mode in order to develop your creative problem-solving skills. You need to learn how to analyze situations from different angles. For example, when you run out of gas in the middle of nowhere, you can think of at least 3 different ways to solve that problem. No. 1. Call a tow truck, no. 2. Call a friend for help, or no. 3. Walk to the nearest gas station and fill up a gas canister and bring it back to your car. Each of these options has its pros and cons. Calling a tow truck will solve your problem in minutes, but it will cost you an arm and a leg. Walking to the nearest gas station may take hours, and you want to know what kind of wild animals you might encounter along the way. And calling a friend for help might work, but it might also backfire. You see, in order to be able to solve a problem, you need to brainstorm multiple solutions and then pick the best one. This process of analyzing a situation from different perspectives and coming up with creative solutions is called creative thinking. And you can improve your creative thinking skills through meditation. Meditation helps you open your mind and think outside of the box. Once you have analyzed the situation and come up with possible solutions, you need to pick the best option and take action. At this stage, you use your logical thinking and past experiences to evaluate the pros and cons of each option. This is why I always say that experience is very important. The more experience you have, the better you will be at analyzing a situation and picking the best course of action. Look at it this way. When you go to buy a new car, you won't just go to the dealership and pick the first shiny car, you see, right? No, you will research different brands and models, compare prices, read reviews, talk to people who own the car you are interested in buying. Basically, you will gather as much information as possible to make the best decision possible. Buying a car is a big decision, which is why you would untrust luck to decide the fate of thousands of dollars you're about to spend. Same thing applies to problems, except the problem is just a smaller version of a big decision and therefore requires a similar decision-making process. When you gain more experience in life, you build your ability to analyze situations logically and make the best decisions based on your past experiences. So, to sum up this video, the secret to solving any problem lies in adopting the right mindset when approaching problems, developing creative problem-solving skills, and constantly gaining experience to improve your decision-making skills. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to watch this video next to level up in life. See you in the next video.